Hi folks, welcome to Your Chef, a series that will teach you to make gourmet meals on a budget, utilizing tips and tricks that I've learned over the years in the industry. I'm Chef Scott Buddle, and I'll be showing you how to shop with price in mind and prepare meals with the least amount of effort, whether you're cooking for yourself, a large or small family, or whether you're entertaining. Now let me do the work for you by looking at the preparation process of the recipe as a whole. It's all about timing and organization. So one of the keys to making your cooking experience quicker and easier is to have everything ready to go where and when you need it. Now, I've come across far too many recipes where, for example, a pasta recipe will have you putting on a pot of water halfway through the process. To me, that's one of the first steps. Another example would be a classic stir fry, where we don't turn on the gas or even start cooking anything until every single ingredient is washed, prepped, and lined up in order of cooking time. And yet, the rice cooker is already on to have hot, fluffy rice when your stir fry is done. And that's how we cook in the industry. On the restaurant line, catering for 2 or 2,000, it's all about timing and organization, and I'll take the guesswork out of the equation for you. Now, you'll hear me say mise en place many times in this series, and that simply means having everything in its place ready for the next step. And that is the key. I'll share tips and tricks from the professional kitchens that I've worked in to speed up the work and bring more joy and fun to your home kitchen. I'll also be demonstrating how to serve your food, family style, quickly plated and portion controlled for the busy family, or when you're entertaining, we'll go that extra step to serve a meal that would feel at home in any nice restaurant. The more we cook together, the more this will all become second nature to you, and you'll be thinking like a chef. Join me as my apprentice. I'm Scott Buddle, your chef. Today we're cooking pork ramen, and the recipe is available at our website. So here's your list. Set the oven to 375. Put on a pot of water for your noodles. Get a kettle on for the wakame. An ice bath prepared for your eggs. And a pot ready for your broth. The broth was prepared in advance, and please check out my video on how to prep a really flavorful broth. So let's make some perfect eggs. First off, we'll pop them in the pot. Then you'll fill your water line to just about an inch above the eggs. Bring the eggs up to a boil. Then we're going to remove them from the heat and set a 7-minute timer and cover them. Make sure you have your ice bath ready. And we'll pour the boiling water over the wakame, and the time and temperature will dictate the texture. Trim the bottom of the enoki mushrooms off and keep it for stock, of course. And I like these because you can use them raw like we're going to here, or you can cook them for sort of a noodle texture. And now's the time to put on your stock pot. And what we'll be doing is pouring the stock in and reducing it down by about half. And we're just filling a pot full of water, ready for the noodles. Let's put that on the stove and crank it up to high. And back to the eggs now. Our timer has set. We're ready to put them into the ice water bath. Now we're moving the eggs to the ice water bath to stop the cooking process and to keep the eggs from being overdone. And stir them gently to uniformly cool them down. And checking from time to time on your broth just to make sure that we're coming up to a boil. When you're peeling your eggs, start at the bottom air pocket of the egg. So keep checking on your broth. It is at a rolling boil, and we're going to reduce it down to half. We've got our water for the noodles boiling, so just put it at the back of the stove and keep it hot. With the oven on at 375, we'll put out some parchment paper in preparation for the pork belly. Now, if you can't get pork belly, you can substitute thick sliced bacon. And pork belly is essentially uncured, unsmoked bacon. And now we're mixing our brown sugar or demerara sugar and our garlified powder. If you don't have garlified powder, use regular garlic powder. And I'm adding salt and pepper. And if you're just using bacon, just omit the salt. And we're spreading an even layer over the pork belly of our garlified powder. Ready for the oven to get nice and crispy and caramelized. And we're laying out some cling film. You'll want to fold it over in order to make it a double strength. We're going to be using this cling film to treat our pork leg cutlets. Lay out the pork, cling film on top, and use the flat end of the mallet. You'll notice that I'm using an outward movement with each stroke so that we get slight tenderization and even cooking. We'll put that on a clean plate, get it ready for flavor. And we're lightly sprinkling it with sesame oil. Now the oil is for flavor, not for frying. Season both sides with the sesame oil, and we'll not salt and pepper until we're ready to fry it. You'll see that our pork broth is reduced down by about half, so we're just going to keep it warm on the back burner. And put your pork belly in the oven. Whisk in your tablespoon of miso into the broth, and feel free to add more if you like it a little bit saltier. At about the 8-minute mark, check on our pork belly. And put your pan on and turn it to high. So your pan is scorching hot. Now it's time to salt and pepper the one side of our pork leg cutlets. No need to do both sides at this point, we'll do that after. And to that pan we'll add a high temperature cooking oil. Peanut is the best. If you don't have peanut, just use canola. I want to hear that sizzle. Now we'll move our one piece of pork over to the side. We'll be tilting the pan slightly just to get the oil covered. Sizzle number 2. And don't move the pan around too much, because that's the best way to caramelize. Now we'll season the other side. While it's in the pan, keep it easy for you. And as soon as we're at this point, we're going to go ahead and flip those cutlets. You'll see those lovely little bits of caramelization on the bottom of the pan right there. And that's actually called the fond. We're going to be including it into our stock by deglazing the pan in a moment. And swirl the cutlets around in the pan just to pick up some of that extra fond. We do not waste flavor. And remove the pork from the pan, put it on a clean plate. and then admire your work. Now we're going to deglaze the pan. Never waste flavor. Scraping off those little bits of fond will add tremendous flavor to our meal. Once the pan looks relatively clean, all goes back in the pot. After 10 minutes, this is what our pork belly will look like. It's nice and caramely. And you'll notice that it's still a little bit pliable. You want to take it out at this point because it will continue to cook and get crispier as the sugars caramelize. The easiest way to cut your egg is literally with a knife, or you can actually use dental floss, non-minty please, or sewing thread. Into the boiling water goes our noodles. Now, these ones are chow mein steam noodles from the refrigerated section at the grocery store. You can use anything you like: egg, ramen, rice noodles, wheat, whatever you prefer. And just keep it moving. Cook till al dente, only a couple of minutes. Our pork leg cutlet has rested just for a minute or so. Now it's time to slice it and get it ready for our mise en place for plating. We'll start with our roasted garlic, and then we'll move on to add some wakame, just for some color, some texture, and for some nutrition as well. And I like to plate in the middle just to keep it all nice and tight and organized. We're moving in with our noodles, nice and hot, and give a little twist to make them give a little bit of height. We'll also be adding our raw enoki mushrooms, followed by our sliced pork leg cutlet. Lots of flavor in there. Along with our 7-minute cooked egg. A few green onions, and we'll pour the broth. A few crisp fried onions on top, just a little extra flavor. And then we're going to plate our pork belly, nice and crisp. And this is our final plating for our pork ramen. Time to enjoy. Now it's time to really appreciate that broth that you made. Put time into it, you deglaze the pan, you reduce the broth. It's delicious.